So I'm working on this Med Associates test chamber. I actually modified it and made it longer by 10 millimeters. And so I need to make this this floor grid longer. And so this is the original one. It's a little too short by exactly 10 millimeters. So here's the new one I'm working on. I've drilled the plastic, the acrylics, but you can see the rods are just floating in there. What I'm going to do is glue it while I've got it in place. I'm going to glue the front first. I'm going to set it in there like it's going to be. That way I know it will fit correctly in the end. And so what I'm going to do, I've roughed up the end of each one of these rods. So I'll just go through and make the rods protrude out the front. And then I'm going to mix up some of this loctite acrylic. This is a urethane acrylic. It's UKU-09FL. And I'm going to put it in this dispensing gun here. And I also marked the cap so when I put it back on, I put it back in the same orientation. Otherwise, on the cap you would mix the two parts and it would begin to cure inside the tube. You don't want that. So I'm just going to mix a little bit into this cup here. And then when I get done, I'm going to go through and apply the adhesive on all these posts that are sticking out. And then I'll push them back flush with the plastic. And then when that's cured, I'll come in the next day and work on the back. The back needs to be on the same plane as the back. This plastic needs to match that plastic, so I'll slide that back. But it'll be a lot easier to do it once these rods are fixed into place. So what I'm going to do is push all these rods so that they protrude out the front. And I will mix up the adhesive and apply it on there and then push the rod back. So I've got them all sticking out the front. I'm going to mix up some adhesive here. I want to take the cap off. It's marked so I don't get it backwards. Otherwise it would start curing inside the tube. I'm going to dispense a liberal amount in there. And then put the cap back on so that it lines up to my mark. And so I've got 10 minutes now to thoroughly mix and work with this adhesive. So I'm going to spend a minute or two mixing it up. And then I'll systematically work applying the adhesive to each one of these. I'll go ahead and tighten that in. I'm not so worried about it being parallel because the holes are doing a pretty good job of holding it that way. So the floor grids, these rods stick out the back and make connection with an electronic connection back there for either recording or stimulation. So now I'm going to go ahead and start applying the adhesive. I mixed it pretty well, and I'm just going to put a little adhesive on the tips here And I just want this to be a flush installation on the front. These tips are roughed up so they will allow the adhesive to get some good grip there. Also, I've left the protective plastic still on the acrylic, and I'll remove that in the end. And I think that will also help the way it looks. And so I'm going to glue the front first, and then I'll come back another day and glue the rear. That way I don't have to worry about disturbing one end while I'm manipulating the other. So now I'm going to start pulling these back. Yeah, it seems to help to give it a little twist. I don't want to touch the front, but I will if I have to. And I've got a piece of plastic here I can use to hold that in. I'm just going to use this to push them flush. And I can also push from the back to make sure they're all touching. I'm happy with that. I'm just going to let that cure. That takes a 3 or 4 hours to cure, but of course I'm going to give it all day. I'll come back to it tomorrow. So there's a look at the rods they're curing. And this is the Met Associates modular test chamber, ENV 307W. And this is the drill guide that I used. I used a spring-loaded center punch. And I measured and found that these rods here, they're on 9mm centers, which is 0.354 in the old Imperial system. And so after this cures, I can come back another day and apply adhesive to the back of the rods, and then push this acrylic panel back so that it's in line with the rear here. And I usually like to leave the cup with adhesive, and I'll check that and see if it's cured. If there's ever a problem, I'll know because the adhesive won't be cured in the cup. And sometimes that's happened, mostly with epoxies. So you can see on the rear they are sticking out a little bit, and later that's going to be brought back right along the same plane as this plexiglass piece. And you can see there's the holes where these posts used to be, 10mm to the front. And this is the old floor. It's the ENV 307W. I think that stands for wide, maybe. Grid floor C. And I'm just making a longer version of this.